Schneider in a class of his own in qualifying, the only man down into the 1:28, but Dumbrek just 0.08 of a second quicker than Mercedes driver Uwe Altzen. The Audi's fourth of Alan, the best of the Opels in 7th spot, and further back you'll find the bulk of the Opels padding out the midfield. Poor old Joachim Winkelhock though, right down towards the grid, with Darren Turner and Yves Olivier behind him. Field heading towards the green lights, and immediately Bernd Schneider on the left-hand side of the picture, heading down to the first turn, but behind Alain Menu in the white car, trying to take the inside line, boxed behind one of the Audis, and Menu across the curbs. Plenty of bumping and banging going on. There's a spin up. Christian Abt trying to make it 3 wide into the first turn. Over the curbs he went. He'll rejoin at the tail of the field. Out front though, the Mercedes. Schneider defending from Dumbrek. Behind the lead Audi is Tomczyk. Then Altzen, the black Mercedes. Menu's white Opel is the best of the Opels. White Opel is the best of the Opels. Right behind Aiello, being monstered by the Mercedes of Fessler and Maylander. But Dumbrek determined to try and hang on to Bernd Schneider here, see if maybe a victory will come his way in Austria. Tomczyk under pressure, Uwe Altzen right behind in the 4th place car, the black Mercedes. Tomczyk runs wide. As they drop down the hill, Uwe Altzen has 3rd place. Where will Tomczyk end up? There's Altzen. Tomczyk now under pressure. Right behind him, Alain Menu in the Opel. And behind him, Laurent Aiello. Aiello needs to work his way up the order to try and stay in the hunt for the championship. And as the Opel runs up wide on the curbs, there is Aiello's chance. The former British Touring Car sparring partners swap positions as the Frenchman gets past the Swiss.
And here we see a replay of the start. You remember in the Grand Prix, this is a very tricky corner, catches out a lot of drivers. And here we are, I think looking down there, you can see that Winkelhock came up on the inside very tight and just clipped the back of Abt and spun him round. Surprisingly, actually, only 1 car got involved in that incident. But as ever, first corner, first lap, something always happens.
Tomczyk in the Audi now, defending from Menu. He's already allowed Aiello to go through. The German driver slides wide over the curbs on the exit of the first corner, the Castrol curve, and Menu takes the place. But Menu will have to try and work a little harder to get away from the Audis, because still behind that black Mercedes of Fessler coming around the outside. And the Audi holds on there. Once more in the midfield, plenty of action. Lots of door banging there as they came up to the Remus curve. Yellow flags at the top of the picture, and somebody has gone off. There's a slow car returning to the track. Meanwhile, and there is Scheider. He is heavily off into the barriers. Looks like he's lost the front end of the bodywork. Out comes the flip-up door, and he steps away from the wreck machine. Some work for the mechanics to do there. On board with Manuel Reuter, a little further back now. And Reuter working his way up from a fairly humble grid position. Reuter only 16th in qualifying, but he's showing a little bit more pace here in the race. And of course, this decides where they will start the main feature. And look at the way that Schneider has driven away from his teammate in ostensibly identical machinery. Dumbrek 2nd, Altzen 3rd, the black car, then Aiello in 4th, Menu in 5th place, Tomczyk in 6th, black car of Fessler next up, and then Bartels and Maylander squabbling. And it was right about there that we lost Scheider. Let's have a look back at that incident.
And here we see the entry into the first corner, the Coca-Cola curve, and there Maylander on the inside seems to squeeze Scheider, who's on the outside, and then it's just 3 into 1 won't go. There's Ekstrom who hits Scheider, and then Jaeger arrives and just drives straight over the bonnet. So quite a big incident, probably graced Wimbledon Stadium. It's almost banger racing. That's Mamaro, I think. Whether that was caused by that incident or we just drove off the circuit, I don't know.
Mercedes 1, 2 and 3, Bernd Schneider driving away from Peter Dumbrek. Uwe Altzen closing in fast from behind, and Laurent Aiello going with them. And off at the Niki Lauda curve, that is Joe Winkelhock. Smoking Joe will be gravel spreading Joe by the time he gets out of there. He does successfully. The next left hand of the Powerhorse corner is going to be very slippery on line.
And he's dropping gravel everywhere, a bit like a dumper truck. In fact, probably there's another load of gravel going there. He'd get a good job as a gritter driver in the winter, I think. And here we see Mamral's incident. This is why he went off, and he seemed to get involved there with 2 other cars. It looks like it was probably the Audi of Abt and the Opel of Haupt, who have all been running at the back, but I guess they thought they wanted to have their own little incident as well as everybody else.
back in the pits after 2 shunts, and they will try and fix the car for the feature. Meanwhile, the Mercedes D2 cars in number order. Schneider always likes to dominate his teammate no matter what the championship is that he's racing for Mercedes in. He's been superb in the DTM, in the ITC before it, and in the FIA GT Championship. The Mercedes were running their GT cars. Schneider won 1 of the championships. Well, Wallach, the second year in the number 2 car, which was a catastrophe on a minor scale for Bernd, but he's really romping away here, and the checkered flag awaits him at the end of the lap. He will comfortably win over Peter Dumbreck and start the main race from pole position. 3 points to the championship for Schneider, 2 for Dumbreck, and the 1 point for third place goes to Uwe Altzen. Aiello will line up 4th ahead of Menu and Tomczyk for the feature. Plenty of work for the teams to be doing in between the 2 races, of course, particularly from that big 4-car shunt we saw. And here comes Scheider's car on the flatbed. The crew will have a look at it and try and sort out the damage for race 2. And I'm sure, as ever, there's bound to be 2 stories behind this one.
I think Matthias Ekström was the bad guy. He crashed directly into my rear wheel, and yeah, everything is broken, and yeah, the disaster going on.
It's difficult to say now what happened. We were 3 abreast at one stage, and then I mean, everything happened so fast. I cannot say exactly what it was. It was quite a hard battle between, I think we were 4 or 5 drivers which were moving around. So sometimes these things happen even if you don't like them to happen.
Cars coming out onto the grid for the feature race, and they line up, well, almost as if they were in championship order for the start. Schneider, the points leader, ahead of Dumbreck, Uwe Altzen and Laurent Aiello, and that's how they line up in points. Alain Menu is 5th place, and his teammate Michael Bartels in 8th position. Mailander avoided that 4-car shunt to line up on the inside of row 5. Manuel Reuter inside of row 7, with Turner, Olivier and Winkelhock behind him. The damaged cars all at the back of the field, of course. Ready again for the green light and another early start. Bernd Schneider gets away superbly, and again the red car of Jochen Winkelhock on the white line all the way down the inside. Let's see if they make it through. Alain Menu inside the 2 Audis. Contact between the Audis, and a spinner is Peter Dumbreck. The 2nd place car goes round. Dumbreck being pushed backwards along the track as 4 or 5 other cars are in... And Dumbreck's reversing out of danger. Some of the others, Marcel Albers there and Michel Bartels, not able to do so. The German and the Dutchman both firmly in the barriers. That's like Dumbreck has spun-turned his way out of trouble. There's Marcel Fessler. He got through the trouble there. But there, I'm afraid, out of the race is the Audi of Tomczyk. Damage at the front and definitely damage at the rear. So safety car will be scrambled while they try and clear up the debris, particularly all those sharp shards of carbon fibre. And as Bartels reverses out, there is David Salland out of the race. Will, let's have a look at this one again.
Yeah, absolute carnage on the first corner. Really, it's I'm not sure if it was a racing incident or not. There's Menu comes charging an outrageous line down the inside across the grass. But before that, Aiello clearly tapped the back of Altzen, and Altzen then tapped Dumbreck in front. But it almost looked like it was Menu caused it by trying to squeeze 3 cars into basically 1 racing line. And a lot of cars behind. Here we see on board with Aiello. There you see Aiello tapping the back of Altzen, who then gets out of control, is then hit by Menu on the inside, but has tapped Dumbreck in the meantime. So really a lot of action going on there, and a lot of innocent cars taken out from behind. Here we see it from another angle, and it's great stunt driving almost by Dumbreck. You can see the whole pack pounding down on him, and his idea is really just to get out the hell out of there as fast as he can, in probably into reverse gear, but and he managed it. But we're not sure whether he's going to be back in the race or not. But as I said, a lot of innocent cars there taken out as well.
Well, it's decimated the field. Dumbreck, though, in the pits and out of the race. Let's see if we can catch up with him, find out what happened. Well, cars involved in the accident, out of the race, and the remaining 11 led round by Schneider. Yellow cars Aiello 2nd, Fessler the Swiss in 3rd, and Jochen Winkelhock in 4th place in the red Opel. Anticipating the green, the safety car is off. Here comes Schneider, already at full speed out of the final turn. They get the green lights, they're racing again, and the battle on the left-hand side of the racetrack, that's Yves Olivier in the white Opel. Right behind him, Uwe Altzen, who finished in 3rd place on race 1, but got bumped off on the first corner, remember, as Menu came down the inside. So Altzen there in the black Mercedes with an awful lot of work to do. He's inside the Belgian driver, Yves Olivier, former Formula 3000 driver. Uwe Altzen raced for Opel, and now for Mercedes in German touring car racing. He's come around the outside of Olivier, who now can't defend into the second corner. Heisman also goes through in the blue Mercedes there. So Duncan Heisman, 5 times German Porsche Super Cup champion, has moved up as well. Alton and Heisman both going past the Opel, and Olivier now has a queue of cars right behind him.
Yeah, that wasn't very cute of Olivier, really, being hung out to dry on the outside. You can see there was 2 cars behind him, and Heisman, it was very easy for him to get through. Alton, of course, is really a man who keeps pinching himself, because last year, of course, he's with the Opel team, and was dropped at the end of the year for his driving tactics, and now finds himself in the Mercedes camp, and of course in the quickest car. So I think he keeps pinching himself every time he gets out on a racetrack, but he's having a real battle, just getting really wild there as he comes through the Lauda turn, and Heisman put him under a lot of pressure, and it looks like Heisman's yes, he's got down the inside. It was a great manoeuvre there by Heisman, all locked up under braking, and now Alton's got it all to do.
And they've both picked up a place, because Jochen Winkelhock went off there as well on the penultimate corner. There was a little bit of dust out of shot, and then Winkelhock coming back on, not as far off as he went in race 1, but they still go back up. So they're now 4th and 5th, Winkelhock in 6th, Olivier now down to 8th place, and in danger of losing another one as Ekstrom comes comes up right behind him in the repaired Audi. Of course, Ekstrom out in that battle in race 1.
And here we see Winkelhock going off, coming out of the Rindt curve, a very important curve. It leads into the A1 curve and then onto the start-finish straight. Very important to carry speed. But of course, we've also seen people like Michael Schumacher going off there in qualifying in Formula 1.
And Hubert Haupt coming past Jochel as Yves Olivier tries to find that place back as well. And there's Ekstrom right behind. It's a good battle going on there. Darren Turner, the black Mercedes. Well, he is in an older Mercedes and can't even stay the pace of the Opels at the moment. So poor old Darren struggling at the back of the field. And this battle between Heisman and Alton continuing to reel in the leaders, and Ekstrom looking pretty feisty here. The Audi with the Swedish flag over the back flanks, damaged in race 1. He didn't score any points there, but he's looking to work his way up here. Gives Olivier a little shove from behind to try and encourage him to stay on the pace or get out of the way. Olivier holds on there, but Ekstrom now nicely poised as they come over the crest to have a look down the inside into the Rindt curve. Not quite close enough. Winkelhock right there to pick up the pieces if they make contact and go off. And into the pit sweeps Darren Turner. Now it's too early for a scheduled pit stop. The English driver coming in to serve a stop-and-go penalty. The team were working on the car after the 3-minute warning board to clear the grid. So Yves Olivier and Ekstrom with Winkelhock right behind. That's really ruined any chance Turner had of staying with that battle, never mind getting into it. But the Mercedes out front of Bernd Schneider still easing away gradually, slowly but surely from Aiello. Marcel Fassler on his own in 3rd place, feeling a little lonely. But it looks as though Reuter, Heisman and Alton are going quicker. They are gradually reeling in Fassler. He may have his hands full in a few laps. Plenty of distance still to go, and of course the ever-present question of the pit stops. Now Reuter has got close company, because right behind him is Duncan Heisman. Reuter, former ITC champion, but struggling at the moment in this year's Opel. Can't make it work, but then nor can anyone else. The Mercedes, the class of the field last year and this. And Heisman moving over from the Porsche Super Cup into a very different kind of car, really adapting well to the Mercedes. Into the pits he comes. Look at that, right behind him. In goes Uwe Alton as well. That battle will continue down pit road. We'll have to see what the teams make of it. 60 kilometers, 36 miles an hour is the speed limit, both coming down to it by the white line. Heisman with Alton right behind, and their respective teams will be primed for this 8 or 9 second burst of activity that could help decide the race for their drivers. In they go, mandatory 4-tyre stop, and stopping early, of course, gives them the benefit of fresher tyres for longer in the middle stint of the race. Away they go, no change in place, but it looks as though Heisman might perhaps have half a second or so of an advantage over Uwe Alton. So a good job by both teams, below 9 seconds, but fractionally above 8. Pretty much a Formula 1 speed pit stop. They didn't take on any fuel, just the tyres. So what can Aiello do then? Will he have to chase Schneider all the way to the line? Or will the Audi team be able to pull off a master stroke in the pits? It's going to have to be an exceptional stop to try and overhaul Schneider's on-track advantage, which is now nearly 2 seconds. Fessler and Reuter, third and fourth now, ahead of Heisman and Altzen, who have changed their tyres. They came back out in front of the Opel of Haupt and Olivier, and Winkelhock's also been in, so Jochen Winkelhock coming in nice and early. Now, Will, what about stopping early? You get fresher tyres earlier in the race, but you're carrying more of a fuel load. Is it better perhaps to wait a little longer?
I think it also helps if you're in traffic and you're looking for a gap, to come in early. If you're in traffic and clearly being held up by a slightly slower car, then it is a good time to come in and get a gap, as it were, in the traffic, and to get out there. And when the tyres are fresh, there's nothing worse than being stuck in traffic as well. You really want to put the throttle down and use those tyres to best advantage.
Well, Altzen and Heisman will be doing that, chasing the lead quartet, have all yet to stop. Will, on board with Manuel Reuter, one of the slowest points on the circuit here.
Yes, we're in the second corner of the lap. This is the Remus corner. Second gear, very slow and bumpy, as you can see from all the tyre marks. Now, we do know, of course, that the Opel is not the best chassis out there. The drivers find it very difficult to find the window, the optimum window of setup. It's easy to tip the car over one way or the other. Here we go into the second slow corner, the Gosser curve, and before running back into the infield section, which takes us back behind the pits and into the Lauda and Powerhorse curves. At the moment, Reuter in excellent fourth place. Join us after the break. Welcome back to the A1 ring and the battle for third place between Marcel Fessler and Manuel Reuter.
Reuter heading into the pits. The Swiss dives down the pit lane with the Mercedes. Will Reuter follow suit, or will he stay out in the Opel for another lap or two to try and run in clear air? He has been catching Fassler's Mercedes in the last few laps. Seems to be going a little quicker. That's on target for the best result that Opel have had so far this season. Well, Fessler coming into a halt. Must seem like an age to come down the pit lane at 60 kilometers an hour after doing 260 out on the track. Another good, clean-looking stop. Down he goes. 8.4 was the quickest so far. He goes out 8.7. Doesn't lose much, but right behind him, look at the speed of Altzen and Heisman. They have really gained on Fessler, and Heisman in the blue Mercedes will go past him. Now, Will, the trouble with the tyres here at the A1 ring is they take 3 or 4 laps to come in, and so Fessler now very vulnerable to these cars with fully warmed up tyres.
Absolutely right, Martin. Of course, they're also unscrubbed tyres. It will take 2 or 3 corners to get a sort of a rougher surface on the tyre, which is going to give them more grip and traction. But what we've seen here is Heisman and Altzen have obviously put their outlap coming out of the pits when they made their earlier pit stop. Maybe because they're racing each other, that possibly helped. And as a result, of course, we've seen Fessler drop a place, and maybe even dropping another place here as Altzen tries to come up the inside under braking for that corner.
Well, there won't be too many smiling faces if they take each other off on the pit wall, but I don't suppose they'll be too worried if Altzen does get past Fessler, as long as their cars are running strongly. And there he goes down the inside. He goes into the Lauda curve, takes that position away. And of course, Fessler was in third place when he came into the pits. Still out front, Schneider and Aiello. Reuter now in third because he hasn't stopped in the Opel. So this is effectively the battle for fourth place. Heisman fourth in the blue car.
I think there you're right, Martin. That really was a question of confidence with the fresh tyres. Clearly, Fessler didn't have the confidence and couldn't make the sort of commitment in the corners. And as a result, it was quite easy, ultimately, for Altzen to get past.
Well, Altzen shouldering his way through. He gave Fessler fair warning that he wasn't going to be to be waved by, and by he went. He's having this battle with Heisman. I think, honestly, he probably felt his teammate was just getting in the way a little. It's been a race-long scrap between the blue and the black car, and these two guys have lost nothing to each other in terms of pace by the pit stop. Nothing lost or gained. In fact, Hubert Haupt and Yves Olivier in their Opels in front of this battle as well. They've kept their pit stops for later in the race, as have Schneider, Aiello and Reuter. So this is the battle for 6th, 7th and 8th. Ekstrom in the Audi some way back in 9th place, but he's also changed. They should all end up ahead of Haupt and Olivier once the pit stops are finished. But right now, it looks as though Uwe Altzen is as close as he's ever been to the back of Heisman's car.
That's very, very close. In fact, that's contact, I think, there, without a doubt. But Altzen pushing very, very hard. Here we see Aiello coming to the pits. That's a second-place car for his quick pit stop, I think, because we do know that the Abt team are probably the quickest tyre changes in the pits. And let's see what sort of time. Well, the clock's stuck at 4.8, which I don't believe. I think it's probably more like 8.5-second pit stop, that one.
Well, that was held up, Will, right by the right-hand side front tyre man, because the other three were standing there with their hands up in the air, and I think that's why the guy with the thumb on the stopwatch stopped the counter there. So, but for that right front tyre, he may have well been away in 5 seconds, and that might perhaps have changed the complexion of the race. He was only 2.5 behind Schneider when he came into the pits. Whatever, he is out and back down the order. Schneider now leading from Reuter, who has yet to change. Manuel Reuter, I'm sure, will leave his pit stop as long as possible to enjoy a few moments in the sunshine. But Bernd Schneider is the real and probably eventual winner of this one. Into the pits he comes. Let's see what the AMG crew can do.
Schneider really has dominated the weekend so far. He's been headed the timesheets of every single session. He's headed every race. And unless his mechanics get it all wrong, I can't really see him losing the lead at the moment.
Well, that would be a big mistake by the AMG Mercedes crew. Not that they've never made any, but they're so rare that you do need a bit of a diary to write them down. Looks like a nice, smooth, and obviously well-practiced stop. 6.5 seconds he's got all the wheels on, 7.5 he's down, 8.3. Well, I'm not entirely sure that was a fair representation of the stop for Schneider. Comes out ahead of Yves Olivier, so Manuel Reuter leads the race. Olivier right there behind Schneider. Schneider now second, Olivier in third place. You can just see the yellow Audi, and that is Laurent Aiello in fourth spot at the moment. Of course, the two Opels, first and third, still have to go in for their tyres. So Schneider will now get the hammer down as much as possible, as we've talked about earlier, trying to bed those tyres in, but also make the outlap as close to a full speed lap as possible.
And here we see a replay of Alton at long last getting past Heitzmann as he gets on the power, much better coming out of the Lauda curve and dives down the inside of the powerhouse curve. That's the infield section on this excellent undulating circuit.
Well, another robust move, you have to say, from Uwe Alton to take that place, and problems for Ekstrom. The Swede out of race one with damage. They repaired the car, it looked fine, but clearly something going awry underneath the skin. Here is our race leader then, Manuel Reuter, and how he would like to have already performed his pit stop and still be P1. Unfortunately, this season, Opel has not produced the car to allow him to challenge for the championship. But still, Reuter is such a hard trier, and he lives in Austria as well now, although he's a native of Germany. And so perhaps just a little bit of an attempt here to display the colours for Opel and for his fans in Austria.
We do know, of course, that the Opel, one of its strengths is it does have good straight line speed. It's got a strong engine. It's when it's at circuits where you've got a lot of medium pace corners. Here at the A1 ring, there's a lot of long straights and some tight bends. So perhaps this circuit does suit the Opel a little bit better than some of the other circuits we've seen, and that's perhaps why we're seeing a better performance from the Opels. But we do know during the summer break, as it were, the 4 or 5 weeks they had off, that Opel put out a few of the cars to various engineering concerns to have them go over the cars as if they could find a solution to the chassis problem. So possibly also we're seeing some results from that feedback.
Well, we're seeing some results from Bernd Schneider on new tyres now that they are safely bedded in. 1:28, he's back down there again, and that's pretty much his qualifying pace. So Schneider really flying. Over half distance, now towards three-quarter distance. Still got fuel in the tanks, though, more than he would have had in qualifying. So Bernd Schneider on race day is going at qualifying pace. It's going to be hard to imagine anybody else staying that pace. Closest man to him in qualifying was his teammate 0.3 of a second slower. Best of the rest, Uwe Altsing was 0.4 slower in qualifying. So Schneider, once more, with one hand on the trophy of this DTM championship, is absolutely nailing the car in every corner.
Schneider, definitely a man that Formula One missed. He just got in the wrong teams, but clearly here, he is the king of the A1 ring. He's just driving brilliantly, using every bit of the track and beyond. Here we see Heitzmann and Fessler fighting it out for 5th place, and clearly Fessler reeling in Heitzmann, with Alton now having got away.
Well, Heitzmann seems to have lost a little bit of pace. He was able to get past Fessler as Fessler came out of the pits. He was able to stay ahead of Alton into and out of the pit stop, but Uwe has bumped his way through. Marcel looks as though he is determined to pass Heitzmann as well. So that's 5th and 6th. Reuter still to stop. They should all chink one up. So that will leave Alton in a podium position and clear of this battle. Behind, Haupt, Olivier Winkelhock and the rest have all stopped. And it's just Reuter now going towards the end of the race for his moment in the sun. And is it a traction problem, I wonder? Looks as though Heisman slow there out of that really sharp uphill right-hander, and Fassler now has the run on him. Don't think he'll get him down to Gerser, but if he can get a nice position out of Gerser, maybe here through the Lauda and Power Horse curves, he'll be able to make the move. Race leader Schneider still going quicker than Reuter. You can see it now very clearly. He's catching the Opel hand over fist, and the speed that Schneider's going, I'm not surprised at all. On board with the champion-elect.
Mind you, Martin, I think Manuel Reuter will be in the pits in the next lap or two. He certainly won't let Schneider get past him. But anyway, we're on board now, as you say, with Schneider. We'll just see how the champion-elect is driving this circuit at the moment. As we can probably see, he's using every bit of the track there, running right to the edge of the track, almost onto the grass. Now on board with him, looking back at him, you can see the sequential gearbox, the shortened steering wheel, and the safety seat with the wrap-around piece around the helmet. And I guess maybe on the dashboard he's got England 5, Germany 1, just to remind him that really he needs to put Germany back on the map today.
Classic German colours on the helmet, the red, black and gold, and of course the silver of the helmet now to match the colour of his car. And as you say, he is so close now to Manuel Reuter, and Reuter in fact getting dangerously close to the end of the pit stop window, 21 laps out of 24. Manuel won't want to be there as Schneider comes sailing by. That really would rub salt into the wounds. So Reuter with another lap or so to make the choice. He may well come in this time round, and if he doesn't, then Schneider will have to think about finding a way to go past him. Reuter's far too much of a gentleman and knows he's not in the running for a victory in this race to actively hold up Schneider. It would just be one thing that Bernd would not want to have to worry about. The AMG team will be watching from the pit wall as we watch from the onboard camera. Again through the Rins curve, down a gear into this final corner, and then it's accelerating all the way as it sweeps out, and Reuter's in the pits. Can't see him in front of us as we come across the start-finish line. 2 to go. Reuter comes in. Let's see what the Opel team can make of this. Of course, it's slightly academic. They won't come back out in the race lead, but pride is a wonderful thing when it comes to working hard. Not the fastest of stops. Again, he was going at about 8.4, and as the speed limiter cuts in, all that glorious sliding wheel spin dies out.
It did actually take an awful lot of time to get that car down off the jacks compared to the Audis and the Mercedes. The car takes a long time to get rid of the air in the jacks, and as a result, almost added a second to that pit stop. But there we see him coming out in 4th place behind Alsen, so a very good race so far by Reuter, probably one of the best of the year.
So Uwe Alsen comfortably in a podium position then. As you say, Will, perhaps a slightly quicker pit stop by the Opels might have left that in doubt, but of course, even if Reuter had come out right in front of Alsen on those brand new tyres, I think Uwe would probably have found a way to ease his way past. Now the danger for Reuter is Heisman in the blue machine in 5th place. Fassler now down in 6th and some way back. I wonder what that was all about.
Well, here we see it. It looks like Fassler just lost it on the last corner, the A1 curve, and really either just got on the power too early, probably more likely just put a rear wheel right on the edge of the circuit, possibly on the grass, and away he went.
As we saw on board with Bernd Schneider, fast exit from that corner, accelerating all the way down the hill, and it does drop away quite noticeably. Easy to put a wheel wide. Aiello goes through in 2nd place. No chance of catching the leader, but a huge gap back to the 3rd place man, Uwe Alsen. And Alsen again, no real chance of catching Aiello unless the Audi strikes trouble. So Reuter in 4th place, and Heisman breathing easy once more after that spin the previous lap by Fassler. That will have been just after Reuter came into the pits. Right behind, 2 more of the Opels, Yves Olivier and Hubert Haupt. And as we said, they had stopped earlier on, or slightly before Reuter, but behind all the Mercedes drivers. The Opels trying to stay out as long as possible and to wave the flag.
Of course, it's been a bad day for the Brits. Obviously, Peter Dumbreck being knocked out of the race in the first corner incident, and Darren Turner also struggling with a number of pit lane speeding incidents, and also our honorary Brit, Alain Menu, actually probably causing that first lap mayhem.
Well, final lap for Bernd Schneider, and he knows that the trophy is waiting with the checkered flag. He will win the championship here in Austria, away from home, the first away from home race of the season. He won't mind where it is as long as he wins it. The checkered flag awaits. It waves for Bernd Schneider. The 2001 Deutsche Tourenwagen Master is Bernd Schneider. Pulls up under the AMG pit, waves to the crew. They wave back, and Schneider confirmed 8 seconds ahead of Aiello. Altzen way back in third from Reuter, Heisman and Fassler. The new champion salutes the 45,000 strong crowd. Let's hear from him now.
I could expect, but you know, you never know what's going to happen, and